Hi, I'm Morgan.
And I'm Jake, and this is
Neverland Navigation Radio. And hey, before we start, if you could pretty please subscribe to wherever you're listening to us. And if you're watching us on YouTube, if you could like the video, that helps us a lot.
Totally.
And if you are looking to do an upcoming Walt Disney World, Disneyland, or Disney Cruise Line vacation, I am now doing travel agent services completely free to you. Disney pays me. So if you're thinking about doing one of those, please send me an email at neverlandnavigationco@gmail.com, and then we'll exchange contact information, and then I will put my expertise to help you, into helping you. All right, so today we are talking about Expedition Everest.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to be talking about Animal Kingdom history again.
Oh my gosh, yes. And this ride has been one of my top favorite. For the longest time, it was just my favorite ride at Disney.
Yeah, just a lot of people's favorite. It's got a lot going for it.
Yeah, it has now been surpassed for me personally, but it stays up there. It's one of my favorites. It's my favorite, I think, at Animal Kingdom.
Okay, gotcha.
It's hard because I really like Flight of Passage.
Yeah, Flight of Passage. That's definitely a new favorite for sure.
Yeah. But so there's a lot of history behind Everest, even though it's not that old. So really excited to get into it.
I remember Everest's
being built.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I remember specifically all of the advertising. I remember
do you?
There was a huge advertising campaign around its opening because, it was a considerable investment, and Animal Kingdom having such a major thrill ride roller coaster was definitely, a big deal. It was their e-ticket of the time, so
it was actually the most expensive roller coaster of all time up until Hagrid's, which was pretty recently.
Wow, yeah. So really that actually kind of says a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That it took so long for it to be surpassed in investment alone.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know why, but I don't remember the commercials for it, but I remember it being built. I remember the Not a Zoo commercials from when Animal Kingdom was first coming around.
Yeah. It was meant to be the commercial I remember for it was a dramatic narrative, where it was high in the frigid mountains. Yeah.
I watched them while doing research.
Oh, okay, cool. So you probably know the ones that I'm thinking of.
I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah. I remember all of that, and I remember the billboards where there was a Yeti on the billboard, and he was meant to be scary.
Very cool.
Remember that from childhood. So
yeah.
I'm excited to hear about some of the history for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited to go into it. There's a lot. And I'm going to have a lot of Joe Rohde quotes.
Ooh, so everybody Google Joe Rohde if you're not familiar. It's good to have a visual on this creative personality, I find, just because it makes the story more interesting.
If you're into Disney history, I'm sure you already know who this person is.
Totally.
But yeah.
But if we're your source.
You might want to, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. So there's so much information here that I'm going to be looking a lot at my computer. But we will get through this. It'll be very exciting.
That's okay. I'm glad you've got the facts.
Yes. So the grand opening for Expedition Everest was on April 7th, 2006. The ceremonies were led by Disney CEO Bob Iger, and the chairman at the time was Jay Rasulo.
Okay.
All right. The attraction was first announced publicly on April 22nd, 2003, which is wild because they actually started construction a little bit before they announced it publicly, which must have made Disney people insane. Can you imagine? Now I'm saying we know what's coming before anything even starts to happen. You know what I mean? So if we started seeing construction somewhere and didn't know what was happening, I feel like we would be losing our collective minds.
Very not typical for Disney.
Yeah. But this was different time. Yeah.
Well, yeah, for some theme parks that's not super uncommon
for
them to start work on something, maybe have vague clues about what it might be as a marketing tool, and then make an announcement later on. But for Disney, normally, more than anything, they'll announce something whether or not they're 100% sure they're going to build it or not.
Yeah.
So this is very strange.
Yes, exactly. This is, I guess maybe this was before that, where they started telling us things that might happen, but then don't, or for sure are going to happen, but then don't. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
Um, even though we would be like trying to figure it out and anxious, it might be fun. You know,
Yeah,
it's certainly better than thinking you're getting something and then not.
luckily we got Expedition Everest.
Yeah, yeah. So it opened to like pass holder and cast previews in January of 2006, and then that grand opening was in April of 2006, which April seems to be Animal Kingdom's like lucky month because that's when it
Yeah.
was opened to begin with also.
It's a Taurus.
Yeah, it's a Taurus, sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, you would know.
I would.
um, So yeah, that Hagrid's ride was built in 2019. So Everest held the Guinness World Record of the most expensive roller coaster in the world up until then. So that's like that was a long time.
Pricey Yeti.
Yeah. Well, yeah, yeah. The building is about 20 stories, and so it's funny. You imagine somebody you'd have to see this like a picture of it, but I saw a picture of when they were like designing and imagining this,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like a regular rectangle building, and then with the mountain around it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which I never really thought about.
Right, that there's a show building in there.
Yes, exactly.
You can tell from the back.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've never looked at it and thought that. So that's interesting.
The back is like you can tell it's a building on the back, but it's also got like little buildings painted into it to make it look like town buildings. It's kind of fun.
That is fun.
Yeah.
Um,
But you can definitely tell it's a big old show building. At least they built an entire mountain around it and didn't just paint it blue. That's cool.
yeah, yeah, it's very cool looking.
Yeah.
So the like I said, the building is about 20 stories. Then the Yeti is about 20 feet tall, 20 to 25. I think I saw 25 somewhere else. This is the tallest structure in Walt Disney World. That's trivia knowledge for you guys. It is 199.5 feet high because of at 200 they would have to put a light on top so the airplanes don't hit it. The Hollywood Tower Hotel Tower of Terror building is 199 feet. So it's a 6-inch difference.
So they're really scraping
the
boundaries here.
They're really counting the centimeters.
Nice. Cool. It's cool to know that they've got just a couple centimeters on the other guys.
Yeah.
Good for you, Expedition Everest. You're a winner.
Yeah. I went through so many Joe Rohde quotes there, and there'll be a lot that I talk to. But
who's that? Who's Joe Rohde?
Joe Rohde is an Imagineer. I would say the most famous Imagineer. That's just me personally. At least modern.
Oh yeah, he's up there with the current ones for sure.
Yeah, he's the creative developer for all of Animal Kingdom, as well as, gosh, what else? He had a big part in Mystic Manor.
Pandora.
Well, yeah,
Epcot.
Some of Epcot. Yeah, just a bunch of stuff.
He was involved in the planning of Epcot in ways that I learn new things about his involvement all the time. A lot of you may be familiar with a rendering of a building that was planned for Epcot that was going to have the Great Movie Ride in it. It was like a blue building with a marquee painted onto it. Joe Rohde painted that.
Oh, interesting.
So random and weird. Yeah. Had no idea he was even involved. But
no, I didn't either.
He pops up through the development of Epcot in really interesting ways, and it leads you to see why he was given such artistic control
over basically all of Animal Kingdom.
Right, that's his baby.
Yes. He also did the revamping of the Tower of Terror in Disneyland to turn it into the Guardians, not Cosmic Rewind, Mission Breakout.
Right.
And that was super interesting. So, and then he's highly publicly available. You know what I mean? Which is why I've got so many quotes from him. That's another cool thing about him.
Yeah.
He likes to talk about his work.
Yeah, he does. Well, he does a lot of really good, insightful press for Disney that I'm sure they really appreciate.
Yeah. One of the things that he said was Expedition Everest is not meant to be a substitute for a trip to the real Himalayas. It's a fictional story told in a realistic style, which I found to
Ooh,
be comical
I love it.
because I would not have thought, oh, well, I rode that roller coaster, so check. Now
Well,
I don't have to go to the Himalayas if that was on my bucket list or whatever.
it's just interesting because like Epcot, people talk about that with Epcot, that people like there's always the joke that I don't need to go to see
Yeah,
Europe.
but
I
it's a
could just go to
joke.
Epcot. It's just a joke. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems like such a funny thing to say. But I mean, I had no plans to go to the Himalayas, so this is going to count for me.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
It's just not my cup of tea, which is kind of a pun that you might get later.
I couldn't deal with the cold.
Yes, exactly. Um, Everest is the last non-IP ride to come to Walt Disney World.
Oh,
Yeah, well, whether you like that or not.
right.
um, so it's not, a lot of people think it's just a mountain or a Yeti themed roller coaster, but there is, like, of course, with all things Disney, there is a wildly intricate backstory that I'm going to get into.
Love it.
Yeah, this is a pretty extreme backstory, of course. And that's the thing with Joe Rohde. You know what I mean? Yes, Imagineers have been doing this forever, but like I feel like his backstories are so detailed and intricate. Like he and a bunch of other Imagineers took a trip to the Himalayas before even beginning on this, not before beginning on it, but like before anything was being done.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Like like research.
Yes, a research trip.
Got it.
All right, let me see. Okay, so a interesting like misconnotation is that people think that you're on Everest when you're riding this ride, and you're not. The Everest is the mountain that is behind the scary looking mountains in front, which is what you're going into, and that is the Forbidden Mountain. The ride is called Expedition Everest, and it says Forbidden Mountain. I'm missing the terminology right now.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, so you're on the Forbidden Mountain, and you're trying to get to Everest.
I think people should be excused for thinking that they're on Mount Everest because Everest is the like main title of the ride.
Yes.
If y'all don't want people to think that they're on Mount Everest, maybe don't call your ride Expedition Everest.
Yes.
But yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah. Well, here's here's a Joe Rohde quote that kind of explains it. So, quote, "The name of our story is Expedition Everest, but nothing in the shape of the real Everest says forbidden. So we created the narrative device of a foreground mountain range made of shapes that say, don't go here."
Gotcha.
So like the shapes of the mountains that you see have more of a scary feel to them.
I get it.
Yeah.
Like an intimidation factor.
Right. Where if you just saw Everest, you're just going to be like, oh, that's beautiful.
I could climb up that. Yeah.
Right. So the area at the base of the Himalayas in Nepal is a small village called Surka Zong. This is the backstory, you guys. Okay, Surka Zong. The Surka Zong locals believe that the Himalayas should be respected, and they believed that a protective spirit, which is the Yeti, guards the Himalayas and their village from harm. So they believe in the Yeti.
Okay.
And they believe that he is a protector.
Okay.
But that you've got to give him, like, they've got shrines to him.
Hair ties.
Hair ties. You have to give him food and jewels and stuff like that at these shrines to keep him happy.
Sounds like a reasonable deal to me.
Yeah. If I can jump here for a second, maybe. So one of the things that Joe Rohde said, this is another quote. This quote is about when they went to Nepal and the Himalayas to do this research.
Cool.
He said, quote, "Most people in the Himalayas believe the Yeti is real. It's not like Bigfoot," which is exactly what I thought it was like. Okay. Going back to the quote. "It is not something that like 6 rednecks in a bar think is real and everybody else thinks that they're crazy. That is not the Yeti. When you go to the Himalayas, it's really hard to find people who don't think the Yeti is either real right now or was real a few years ago. The Yeti is real to these people.
Okay.
End quote.
That is really interesting.
Yes. Fascinating, right? So this isn't, I was thinking that it's like the Bigfoot, where there are some people that think it's real.
Yeah.
Most of us are like, eh.
It's a legend, yeah.
Yeah, but apparently everybody there thinks it's real in real life. Okay,
Yeah,
that's not
wholeheartedly.
part of the backstory. That's real.
Okay.
Okay. So
Back to, what is this place called?
Circazong.
Back to Circazong.
Yes. So in this backstory, they believe that this protective spirit is protecting them, and so they've got shrines and stuff like that, and artwork, and that is all throughout the queue. It's outside of the ride, so this is all part of the backstory. Okay. Many explorers have ventured into the Himalayas and come to this town on a quest to prove that the Yeti is real, and many have returned with evidence too big to be known as, or too big to be thought was an animal footprints, like an animal print, but it's too big to be any animals that we know of. Torn up pieces of campsite, twisted steel, and even blurry photos of a giant primate. The local villagers urge explorers not to tempt the guardian of the mountain.
Okay. Yeah. You see this stuff like displayed in the queue.
Right. You get a sense of it. Even if you're not paying attention, you get a sense of it.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. Despite the warnings from locals, Despite the warnings from locals, a new business has been started in Circazong. Again, this is all backstory. Himalayan Escapes is the name of the business.
Okay.
Okay. When you are walking up to the entrance to the ride, above you see wait time.
Mm-hmm.
It was fast pass line time. I don't know what it says now. Probably something.
Mm-hmm.
But above that it says something about Himalayan Escapes.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's the setting of the queue as we're walking into the
it
business.
says something like Himalayan Escapes welcomes you to Expedition Everest or something like that. So it's showing you this is what you're going on an adventure from this business. You know what I mean?
Right. They're taking you.
Yeah. The company organizes a number of different tours and expeditions, with Expedition Everest being the name of just one of their tours. So this Himalayan tour company, this one is just one of them, right?
Cool. Maybe we'll get more.
Maybe. I don't think so, because there's no IP.
In the Australia Pavilion.
Himalayan Escapes is operated by a native Ananda Puri. And Ananda Pur is like where Holly River Rapids is, which is like the marshes of this area, where like the Everest ride is obviously in the mountainous part of this area.
Right. Okay.
So one of the owner operators of this business is a native of this area, and his name is Norbu. And his business partner, who in some of the things I read said he was British, and others said he was Australian. Either way, he's an entrepreneur named Bob. So this is Norbu and Bob's business.
Is Bob supposed to represent Bob Iger, do you think?
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, he's neither British or Australian, right?
Right, but his name is Bob.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you get the impression these are like supposed to be bad guys because they're disrespecting what the locals want?
Maybe that's what Joe Rohde has to say. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
It is interesting that they use the name Bob, because it sticks out like a sore thumb with all of this.
Another Puri names.
Yes, exactly. Right. They operate out of a building that had previously been used as the headquarters of the Royal Anandapur Tea Company. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's interesting. And if you look around, you'll see tea stuff.
I had seen all of the tea stuff, and I was like, oh, okay, these are advertisements for a business in the area. I didn't realize until you're telling me this now that they are taking over that business's space. That's interesting.
And not just the space, because the trains were once used to move tea.
Oh, okay, right.
So they're taking over the building, the warehouse, the
Mhm.
trains,
They
all
bought it
from the tea
whole
company.
as a lot.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I don't know what happened with the tea company, but
An
yeah,
opportunity for
yeah,
this tourism enterprise.
yes. Okay, so they refurbished the steam train that had previously been used by the tea company to bring harvested tea leaves down the mountain, and now that's how they're taking explorers. Okay,
Kind of
which
a
is us.
treacherous journey, yeah.
Yeah. Um, they transformed the old tea plantation, into the site of their new company,
Hmm.
and they've repurposed the old tea trains, which I just said that, sorry, and turned them into transportation vehicles for the guests to journey up the mountain.
Cool.
Bob and Norbu decided to take a shortcut instead of going around the mountain, straight up the side of the mountain, which is the beginning part of the ride, um, just to save time, which the locals are very upset about.
Ah, so they're getting us into some danger.
Mhm.
I see.
And
This is
in
all their
that,
fault.
right, and in that shortcut, that's when you experience the last shrine to the Yeti, where you go
Hmm.
through that part where there's all the Yeti
On
art
the
and stuff like
lift
that.
hill, yeah.
And that is supposed to be a warning from the locals: do not go this way.
Oh, got it.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Next time I ride this ride,
I know. Your eyes are
I'm
going to
gonna
be
be shaking my
open.
fist at Bob and Norbu for
Yeah.
getting us into so much trouble with their shortcut.
Yes, exactly.
Silly.
So this whole story unfolds. Let's start at the beginning of the line,
Okay.
right? The first part that you enter when you enter the queue for Expedition Everest
Hmm.
is the office.
Hmm.
This is Bob and Norbu's office.
Oh, okay.
Yes, this is the booking office where you get permits. And then you can randomly see some tea stuff. You know what I mean? If you
Okay,
really
yeah.
look for it.
That makes sense.
So I'm about to tell you some things that you could see in this room if you ever got stopped here, but you probably never will.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because we used to get stopped there, but it's the very beginning of the line. So even when the line was insane, getting stopped there would be really crazy. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? You wouldn't
Because
get
that's
stuck.
before the actual outside part of the line.
Yes,
Like you
exactly.
walk in there
You're
before anything else.
you're like right through there every
Hmm.
time. I've never been stopped in there, and I've been going on this ride since 2006.
Yeah.
Um, so you're unlikely to get stopped there unless you just stop and move to the side to look around. So I will
Right.
go over some of the stuff that you would see in there if you did look
It's
around.
cool to know the details, sure.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. And this information I'm getting from Jim Corcus.
Cool.
Yes, fantastic. By way of Mouse Planet, which he wrote an article for.
Okay.
So some of hold on, their office is filled with dozens of small details, from a map of the Himalayas to a tour board depicting the status of various expeditions, because like I said, it's not just Expedition Everest, they do lots.
Right.
There's also many details of the various buildings leading, hold on. Oh, this is just saying that this is stuff that you really can't see unless you really, really take the time to stop and look. There are yellowed newspaper clippings from the Anandapur Reporter. This one says, quote, this newspaper clipping says, serving the nation for 100 years. Oh, that's what it says underneath the name of the newspaper.
Okay.
Some stories have headlines like "Trekkers feared lost" and "Herders reported missing yak," and then here are a bunch more. Quote, "Forbidden Mountain Railway reopens." That's one of
Hmm.
them. "Locals fear wrath of Yeti." That's another one. "Circa Zong dash despite dire warning from irate local residents. The old Anandapur rail services route through the Forbidden Mountain was reopened today. Closed since 1934 under mysterious circumstances, the railroad, formerly operated by the Royal Anandapur Tea Co., was refurbished by Himalayan Escapes Tours and Expeditions." Scary.
So this queue is supposed to be scaring us back.
Yes, it's supposed to be telling you, like, you should not be going here. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Hmm.
Another newspaper headline says the intent say the operators is to provide safe, efficient transport to base camp at Mount Everest and environs. Hundreds of Western trekkers and climbers are expected to make the journey to Circazong to book passage on the new service. Another says, in the heyday of the great tea plantations that flourished in the region, private rail lines were established to carry produce to distant markets. The Royal Nagpur Tea Company used the Forbidden Mountain route extensively in the 1920s and early 1930s.
Mm-hmm.
Next one is, however, beginning in 1933, the railroad was plagued with accidents. Some drew a connection between the mishaps and increasing British expeditionary attempts to reach the summit of Mount Everest, invoking the spirit of the guardian of the sacred mountain.
Okay, too many people were going up
And not,
Everest and
yeah,
they were upsetting the Yeti.
right.
Got it.
By 1934, continual equipment breakdown and track breakages caused the tea company to shutter its facilities and pull up stakes.
That
That's
up.
what happened.
Mm-hmm.
The legend of a sacred beast continued to loom large among locals, coming to a head in 1982 with the tragic disappearance of the Forbidden Mountain expedition. The next one, however, warnings and naysayers aside, the daring entrepreneurs behind the Himalayan escapes were determined to put on a loud, colorful show to celebrate their achievement. Local government officials and attendants trumpeted the event as a landmark enterprise, marking a new era of prosperity and opportunity for Circazong. It is indeed our hope that that is the case.
Gotcha.
So lots and lots of newspaper clippings all around this office that you can see say stuff like this. As you exit Bob and Norbu's office, which is funny because it's a pretty small little area, but then you are on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Then you start to see shrines of the Yeti in various sizes. The majority of these shrines are showered with jewels and food, symbolizing the tremendous respect the locals have for the Yeti. Before entering the area, guests saw more shrines and prayer flags and red paint, which is supposed to ward off spirits. That's like an accurate thing that they got from their trip to the Himalayas. Unexpectedly, this is like a side note, guests sometimes take part in this story by giving their own offerings of coins. You know how people will just throw coins where they see other coins.
I do.
Yeah. So that they will collect that money and donate it to the animal conservation efforts. just so you know.
Okay.
If you throw a coin to the Yeti shrine, it will go towards animal conservation.
You're giving it to a hippo.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so then the next outdoor spot, so you go around like the shrines and the bells and all of that, and then you're in like the area where it kind of smells nice back there. That is fields of green tea leaves.
Oh, okay.
Oh, of course it is, because it was a tea plantation.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Next, you walk into Tashi's Trek and Tongba's shop, filled with hiking supplies and equipment. The shelves holding food supplies in the queue are actually tea drying cabinets, and there is even some, yet tea, but it's yet dash tea, like drinking tea,
right?
Among the dried goods.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, fun. It's a fun. I love all the little details. Once travelers have finished their shopping, they enter into the Yeti Museum of Professor Perma Dorji, PhD. So the Yeti Museum is probably the most memorable part of the line.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, you know, because you're getting close and it's air conditioned and you're out of the sun.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. The museum, which was transformed from a tea warehouse, is dedicated to the serious study of the scientific and cultural aspects of the mysterious creature known and revered throughout the Himalayas as the Yeti.
Gotcha.
The first half of the museum is focused on the geographic region of Nepal, the people of Nepal, and their interpretations of what they believe the Yeti to look like. This setting is meant to establish a sense of reality before venturing into the fantasy.
Okay, got it. I want to feel like I'm in Nepal. Understand?
Yeah. The Lost Expedition of 1982 is the next kind of display. Legend has it, in 1982, a group of trackers went in search of the Yeti. When none returned, after several weeks, a search group was sent in and found that they didn't survive. The remains of their expedition, including their tent, hiking equipment, and camera, are shown throughout that part of the exhibit.
Wow.
Why they would let you see this before going on a paid adventure, I don't know.
That's just what I was thinking. I was like, why is there a Yeti museum right before you get on the train?
Yeah, it doesn't totally make sense. It does make sense that the museum is not run by Norbu and Bob. It's run by this PhD person. But you know what I mean? I don't know.
But I also am like, oh, did they hire him to put the museum there to make it appeal to like thrill seekers?
Maybe.
Like maybe people want to get
Well, at
to
the
see
end
the
of
Yeti,
it,
you know?
at the end of it, um, there is so when you exit the museum you'll see the last warning sign posted by the professor that created the museum. It says, quote, "Respect the power of the Yeti. The weight of the evidence leads to the inescapable conclusion. The Yeti is real. You are about to enter the sacred domain of the Yeti, guardian and protector of the Forbidden Mountain.
Mm.
Those who proceed with respect and reverence for the sanctity of the natural environment and its creatures should have no fear. To all others, a warning: you risk the wrath of the Yeti. Professor Perma Dorji, PhD, curator, the Yeti Museum." So that's what the plaque says.
Okay.
And then it says, "Bob and Norbu cannot allow the good professor to scare off their potential customers." So they also post a sign that reads, "The opinions expressed by the curator of the Yeti Museum in no way reflect the views of the owners and operators of Himalayan escapes, tours, and expeditions."
Okay, got it.
So
they wanted him to make a museum about,
maybe
the local folklore of the area.
maybe you're not supposed to, maybe you're supposed to just be going to a Yeti museum that happens to be in this town that has nothing to do with, you know what I mean?
I thought it was in a tea warehouse.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, okay.
That's
Then I don't really
interesting.
know. I don't really, I mean,
Well, it sounds like he got carried away with the scary Yeti facts. And they're like, no, don't listen to him. I kind of love it.
yeah, maybe. Anyway, back to going through the museum. A little bit halfway through, you see pictures of lowland jungle animals, midland forest animals, and mountain animals. And the purpose of this display is to rationalize that if these animals can survive the different areas of the mountains, then why can't a creature like the Yeti also survive?
Okay.
Weird.
Interesting.
Yeah. Towards the end of the Yeti Museum, travelers notice a brown display cabinet filled with actual different discoveries that Walt Disney Imagineers made during an expedition by Disney and Conservation International, to the Himalayas to once again establish a sense of reality. So this is real stuff in that brown display case.
That's awesome. I'll definitely look out for the next time I'm on the road.
Me too. We're gonna have to like let people go by us so we can look at stuff.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Yeah. Okay. So that's it for the backstory that goes through the queue. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's like the setup for the ride.
Yeah.
Cool.
Fascinating.
A lot of detail.
Yeah, so much. You're right. The museum part doesn't like totally make sense. Everything else really does, but like I can see where they kind of had no choice. They want to like set you up to be scared.
I think I get it. I think they like wanted to consult this local guy to have him like spin some of the like, or to, pique the interest in this tour since they're already going through the Forbidden Mountain, to be like, well, here's what the locals believe about the Forbidden Mountain, but it ended up being so scary, that they're like, well, we can't scare them too much.
Yeah, well, and maybe the museum, I think you said earlier, the exhibits kind of got out of their control. Right. Because it would make sense that Bob and Norbu would want you to see pictures of the local wildlife that's around. That would make sense. What was the beginning part of the museum? Oh, that shows you like maps and stuff like that about the area. The only one that doesn't make sense is the Expedition of 82, where you see the ripped up campsite and stuff like that. I don't know.
Right.
That one would make sense that they wouldn't want you to know about that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, okay. Here's another quote by Joe Rody. He says, "We wanted to make our Yeti as real as possible, and one of the things we did was talk to real Sherpas about the Yeti. What do you think it looks like? How does it move? How big is it? What do we know? What do we know that people have ever said about the Yeti?" So they like when they went, they were like checking out the area, but they were also like talking to people about what they believe and what
Oh,
they believe. So these are locals that are actually, yeah,
that's what they think. I love that it's what they think the Yeti looks like because it is ultimately their,
right,
you know,
right.
story to tell.
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense if they were going to make a Bigfoot attraction that they went up to the Northwest and asked the believers what they thought Bigfoot actually looked like.
Yep.
Not just watch the cartoons where it was featured.
But I like the cartoon.
Yeah, I do too. And
No, that's fun.
I do think that the Yeti does look a lot like what I would imagine a abominable kind of. Well,
Mm-hmm.
not a snowman though. He's much darker.
He's no snowman. He's spooky.
Yeah. I don't know where this is in here, so I'm just going to say it. But they they said that he said, oh, here, hold on, it's right here. Here's another quote from Joe Rody. This will explain better.
Okay.
The Yeti doesn't live on the mountain. He lives in the jungle. He goes up into the mountain.
Oh.
We made our Yeti's fur exactly the same color and texture as these incredibly dense festoons of Spanish moss that hang in all these Himalayan forests. So if our Yeti was in that forest standing still, he would be invisible.
Really interesting.
Wild.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had never for a moment considered that maybe the Yeti didn't live in the mountain.
I know.
Interesting.
Yeah. And it's funny because I think I don't remember who I was talking to about this a while ago, but like without really picturing him, if you had asked me without me really thinking about it what color he was, I would have said white or gray, but like he's not. He's a brown. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
Well, apparently the color of Spanish moss.
Right.
But I don't know why my brain did that. But I guess because of what I think of as a Yeti
Yeah.
in my head.
And on the Matterhorn, the Yeti's white.
And that's the thing. You know what I mean? So many people associate the Matterhorn with this ride.
Right.
Which is really interesting.
Yeah.
They actually took a really rare monkey of some type, a really rare, scary looking monkey, and kind of that was the base of what he looked like, and then they made him bigger and scarier, and kind of is like that.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't know they had picked like a specific breed of something.
They
to,
did.
Like,
they did. I'm not sure if I've got it in my notes, but okay. I might. I very well might.
Cool.
I took this monkey. Yeah, I might get there. I had so many notes. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So another one from Joe Rody. We all got these interviews from the people. We got all these stories. We had that aspect of the Yeti, and then we also did a bunch of scientific research going, all right. If there really was a Yeti, what might this Yeti really look like? And how could we make a Yeti that would incorporate the descriptions, but also incorporate the logic of a real animal that could really live here?
Mm-hmm.
One of those animals that we looked into, here, it's going to be in here, I bet. And one of those animals that we looked at is this, because it's obviously one of the creepiest animals in the world, is a Szechuan golden snub-nosed monkey. Okay. They're very, very rare. They used to be not rare at all. They used to be all over the place, but now, of course, thanks to us, they're rare. And they live in a very cold area, an area where it snows in the winter. And unlike many animals, they don't migrate down the mountain to a warm place, which is weird. That a little bit contradicts what he said earlier. This is all quoting him, but I don't know.
Right, but yeah.
Yeah.
This is not the Yeti. This is the animal the Yeti's
Yeah,
appearance is based on.
that's true.
Interesting.
They stay in the snow all winter and they've adapted to the cold weather environment. You're right. He's talking about the monkey now.
Okay.
So we basically took the monkey, the idea of this monkey, and we made it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And we took some ape-like characteristics and we blended them together to get our Yeti. So if you look at our Yeti and think of this monkey, you'll see all kinds of interesting parallels between our Yeti and this monkey, which we just sort of blended together to get something that you could believe would be real.
I think they did a great job because I think the first time as a kid when I saw the Yeti, I thought of it as like something that could be real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
huge, obviously.
It's huge. It's covered in fur, so.
But it definitely
could
looks
handle it.
primate-like.
Yeah, it's hanging, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's believable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think so.
A few other details that they brought kind of back from their adventure, their research trip
Mm-hmm.
is bamboo. There's bamboo, actual bamboo all over around the mountain, the ride.
Yes, yeah.
There are totem poles that were created by the Nepalese. I said that right?
Really?
Yep.
So those are like from the...
Yeah, they were really, I mean, they're not ancient, you know what I mean? They
Right.
were created
They're
for
just
this,
locally
but yeah,
created
locally.
by them. Kind of amazing. I had no idea those weren't made by Imagineering. That's awesome.
Yes. I know, I love that. From above, in case you ever see a picture of this ride from above, it's a hidden Mickey.
Right.
Yeah. Wild.
Definitely one that I never think about ever.
No, I don't either. Why would you?
Yeah, right. I don't
You
take
can't-
helicopter rides
Yeah.
over Animal Kingdom.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the beginning of the ride, there used to be, or sometimes still is, maybe, I don't know. I can't picture if I've seen it in a long time.
Okay.
But there used to be, when the train would pull up, there would be steam that looked like it was coming from the back of the train. Are you aware of this?
I'm aware of this effect. I don't think I've ever seen it in real life.
Okay. The steam is a built-in mechanism that comes from underneath the track, not from the train. It just looks like it comes from the train, which I thought was a really cool, interesting detail.
Yeah, I think that's like a great example of an effect that you might not even consider not being authentic. You know what I mean? You would just think, oh, well, that's a train. So
yeah,
there's the steam.
Yeah. So that I think that pretty much covers all of the stuff that I really wanted to talk about. The backstory and the story that you're supposed to see and understand when you go through it. And Joe Rohde understands that almost nobody gets it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was
Well,
reading
not every single part of it anyway.
Yes.
Because it's like you might get the basic idea.
I think he said he thought it was like 90% of people just thought it was a fun roller coaster.
Gotcha.
But the 10% of people that are like into learning about the backstory and stuff like that, they get it from.
But do you know something else? Even if you don't fully understand the intricate backstory and all of the facets and the geopolitics of the area and all that, having such detailed references throughout the queue and actual artifacts from the expeditions that they took, it adds a level of immersion that the typical guest might not even realize, but they probably appreciate more than like getting onto an unthemed roller coaster. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Having such dense theming in the queue and having such dense story, even if you don't get all of it, I think it does add to the average guest experience, whether they realize that's part of why they're having so much fun or not. You know?
Right. And I think that even if you don't get a lot of it, you at least get the shrines. I think it's pretty obvious.
Yeah. The locals are warning you.
Yes,
not
exactly.
to go.
But
you're on this train.
I would not have guessed unless I read this that they think of the Yeti as a protector. I would have guessed they feared the Yeti, and it sounds like they don't.
They respect him.
They respect him,
and
but they know
him.
that but they know that if you don't respect him, you're going to catch the wrath of him.
And that's exactly what you're doing, is disrespecting the Yeti with your T-train shortcut business moneymaker.
Yeah, you're just here to
Thanks,
post on
Bob.
Instagram. Are you serious?
Literally, and to fling your hair tie. That's
Hmm.
not an offering. Okay, I did want to get into that actually. I'm glad I brought
Okay.
this up. What is the hair tie an extension of this thing you were talking about, where like people are tossing coins and that's like a tribute? Are the hair ties a tribute to the Yeti, or why are people leaving hair ties
So
at the stop?
yeah, it's so interesting because this is I I don't know how new, but it's not like it was started in 2006. People doing this hair tie thing,
Okay.
right? So somebody did it, and then people are like, "Oh, fun! I'm going to do that too."
Okay.
I have a very fun quote from Joe Rody that he was asked to respond about this hair tie thing.
Love it.
Yeah, so this is going to be
Asking the real questions.
yeah, yeah, and getting this is as real of an answer as you can get because it's
Okay.
from the man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So here's this quote: more ritual behavior. The hair scrunchies! Exclamation point. This is something he posted on Instagram.
Uh-huh.
The hair tie thing at the top of Everest is weird, but also ritualistic.
Mm-hmm.
It violates the illusion of the scene, but oddly parallels what people do at the top of a real Himalayan pass, which is to leave a rock. Obviously, someone started it, but what is significant is the huge numbers of people who follow along. What is going on with that? Question mark, he says. It messes with the illusion of the fantasy place completely.
Mm-hmm.
However, it creates a very real interactive ceremony at the actual top of the highest point of the ride. I cannot condone this behavior, partially because some poor person has to go clean it up, but it does interest me.
It sounds like he does want to condone it.
He does want it. I read that and I was like, that was really nice. You hate this. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate it for him.
Oh, you think he hates the hair
Oh,
ties?
you think he likes it? No, he's saying it messes with the illusion he worked so hard to create. He put so much effort into making sure that this felt real, that you felt like you were in the Himalayas, that you felt like the locals were warning you about this Yeti, that you felt, you know what I mean? All of these things. And then you get up there and you're like, oh, there's a bunch of hair ties.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it takes you out of the realistic,
okay.
yeah, the realism that he worked his butt off to create. Yes, I think he hates it and I hate it for him.
Okay, you're definitely entitled to that opinion. I read something totally different from the quote.
Okay.
Which is obviously it's a matter of interpretation at this point. But him talking about how it does violate the thematic integrity of the scene, which is very true.
And he says that twice.
They are very noticeably not like a Disney created part of the ride. But when he talks about the interesting parallels to the ritualistic nature of leaving the hair ties there's a part of me that thinks he can understand that it's not only cool that the ride itself is so deeply culturally themed, but then having a new cultural practice, a new cultural ritual at the highest point of this theme park ride is its own form of local ritual culture that is kind of like interesting.
Yeah.
So I could definitely see taking either way. I don't think I am like completely opposed.
He says, "What's going on with that?" Question mark. It messes with the illusion of the fantasy place completely. ...
However.
Yeah, I just think he was just trying to not get reamed by the people that are doing it. You know what I mean?
Oh, perhaps, yeah. I've never left a hair tie up there, and but I also don't feel like I hate it, because I think that,
I don't hate it for me. I hate it for him because he put so much work into it. For the Imagineers that went to such extreme lengths to make this seem realistic, like to the tune of $100 million to put you in a place that you're not actually in, to make you feel so immersed that and then have it ruined by you're taken out of it by this.
Yeah, I could see that. I could also see some people saying that it's not ruined because the person in front of you might be wearing Mickey ears. So, like,
True.
Everybody knows that you're not in Nepal. Everybody knows that you're in Florida. You're looking down at buildings and stuff. So, like, you're not there. So, like, the addition of ritualistic activity that maybe is not the most in theme, but is perhaps in the spirit of the story of the ride more so than people may even realize. I definitely agree with him that it is at least so interesting. I would love for someone to like make a little documentary and maybe like do some detective work to find out how this all started, because I think it's such a fascinating, like,
Yeah.
the fact that it, like he said, it mirrors actual cultural tradition of people climbing Mount Everest. Those people leaving those hair ties don't realize they're doing that. It's just what humans do. That's so interesting.
That's the thing. I think, and that's exactly what he means, is that like one person does one thing, and then
Yeah.
other people are like, oh, I'm going to do that too, and then it becomes a thing.
Right. Really interesting.
Yeah.
I'm glad we found out a little bit more about that anyway.
Yeah, it was interesting. I couldn't believe there was an actual quote from him on it. I would have thought he would ignore it.
Yeah, it is the kind of thing that you would kind of expect Disney and Imagineers at large to just completely ignore. So
Yeah.
it's cool that they said something.
Yeah.
That's at such like a tense part of the ride too, right before you go backwards. This was the first roller coaster I had ever been on that went backwards. Was this the first Disney coaster that ever went backwards?
Yes, it's the first Disney coaster that went backwards. Not the first roller coaster
Mm,
ever, but definitely
right.
the first Disney coaster that went backwards.
And now we have
Two.
Guardians.
Yeah.
So we've got another one. But yeah, reverse launch. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I just remembered I didn't really get into the whole situation with the Yeti as a animatronic,
Right.
and the hard times that this poor animatronic has had.
Some would say we're still in the hard times.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So this Yeti was created to be the biggest moving animatronic of all time,
Mm-hmm.
which it was, and oh man, they put so much work into it.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible. The amount of fur that is on him, the amount of snaps and zippers.
Real fur?
No.
Oh, okay. I
Um,
was like, no.
no. But you know what I mean.
He's probably so obviously the mechanics are heavy, but all of that material must be so heavy on him.
Yes, yeah. And he could move a full, like, I think it was 6 feet. And people would talk about how, so if in like the last kind of scene, he would swipe, and his hand would get really close to
Yeah.
the like you felt like you could touch him.
Mm.
And that was a big thing. And then there were issues which have never really been clarified as what happened
Okay.
specifically. There's lots of like speculation and stuff like that. There's speculation to what could be done to fix him, but at some point they went to what's called B mode, which there's a B mode for every animatronic, I think now. And the Yeti's B mode is doing a strobe light, but him not moving. The strobe light is supposed to make it seem like he's moving, which does work. I mean, maybe, of course, it's not going to be the same, but people will report that they saw him moving, but they didn't. It was just the strobe light effect and the fact that you were in and out of that room in like a heartbeat.
Yeah. Even when the Yeti was fully functional, I felt like that scene was always so fast that
So
you
fast.
never really got to appreciate how
I know.
massive he was. And how long did he work in A mode before time unraveled?
So this is really interesting because there's not like on April 27th, 2007, he stopped working.
My birthday.
Yeah. There's not a specific date, there's not a specific month, there's not a specific year. So there are people that say it was 1 year. That's the
Oh no. It's like the Spaceship Earth narrators all over
yes.
again. Oh god.
Yes. Most everything I read said it was about a year,
Okay.
There were a few that said it was closer to 2, and then there are some that say it's up to 3. So sometime in the first 3 years, it stopped working. But this is such a what you were just saying about how fast you move through there is such a good observation, because I rode it a bunch in those first couple of years,
Mm-hmm.
and I ride it a bunch now. And I couldn't tell you, oh, I remember being so disappointed. You know what I mean?
Oh, gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Because you're in and out of there so fast.
Yeah.
That I feel like, even though, of course, I'd love to see it working again,
Mm-hmm.
the strobe kind of does what it does a fine job.
Yeah, it's a fix for
Because
sure.
it's because you're in and out of there so fast. Now, if you were in there for a few minutes, like, you know, the part where you're up at the top of the mountain and you see that projector.
Yeah.
I have been up there when that projector wasn't working.
Really?
I know, right? That's like
I've
the
been up
plan
there
B.
stuck and
Yes,
seen that
I've been
over
up.
and over again.
Oh, okay. Well, I've been up there when the projector wasn't working.
I've never seen that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Just shows you how much we ride this darn ride.
Yeah. And that was really noticeable because you stopped there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're waiting.
In the dark,
the reason you're stopped there is because you're waiting for the track to flip.
Mhm.
And it does that twice in this ride.
Right.
But this change, it's just, you're just in and out of there so fast. It's like you could blink and miss it, I feel like.
Yeah. So are you saying that you did ride it when the Yeti was functional?
Yeah, I must have. That's what I'm saying. Like,
Mhm.
but I mean, I can't even. I was a pass holder preview when it opened.
Whoa, yeah.
So I was one of the first people to
So
go on
definitely
it.
then.
Yes, and went on it constantly. I mean, I
Mhm.
was an annual pass holder back then. We went to
Right.
the parks like every other week. So definitely I went on it when it was functional.
Gotcha.
But do I think it's a ginormous, like, do I think they need to spend millions of dollars and close it down for a year to fix it? I don't think I care that much.
Okay.
But
yeah.
a lot of people do. And there's a big rumor. I wrote this down. Hold on. There's a rumor that an entire side of the mountain would have to be removed to fix the Yeti. And Joe Rohde Joe Rohde's response was, no, that rumor is not true. The issue is a complex interface between finance, operations, marketing, design, timing, engineering, narrative, and guest satisfaction. All of these need to line up to make a viable solution. There are solutions. There are not opportunities. So that's his quote on it.
Okay.
So, and then he is also quoted as saying, I will fix the Yeti someday, I swear.
Yeah, I remember him saying that.
But he doesn't work for Disney anymore. He quit in 2021, or retired in 2021, likely because of issues with Bob Chapek. And so now it seems unlikely. But the thing is, I think that we know that it would involve a significant amount of money and a significant time of Everest being down in a park that already is suffering from lack of people going.
Yep.
And I just don't know if at this point it would even make sense. Like, would that money be better served to do something else?
To finance the new Yeti movie that Disney's gonna make and then refurb the attraction finally.
Oh, is that what you think?
No, I don't know. I am not hopeful that the Yeti will ever be fixed, to be honest.
You don't want it to, or you don't think it will?
I would love it to be fixed. I think, yes, that part of the scene is very fast. And I have always wished that they would let you be in there for a minute.
Right.
Which seems maybe doable. So I don't know. Maybe that's something that they could also do. But if they ever fix the Yeti, if they could let you chill out in there,
I don't think it is doable. You're like already going in this like fast trajectory.
Oh, that's right. You don't stop in that room at all, do you?
No, you fly through there.
That sucks. Maybe they can knock down a wall so you can see down there.
I'm just saying, if they said this is going to take I don't know, $20 million.
Right.
Would you say, we can do this, or we can make the Mary Poppins part of the UK? You know what I mean? Wouldn't you pick something new over having him fixed, but you only get to see him for 2 seconds on a ride that's not even that crazy popular anymore?
I don't know.
Or put something new in Animal Kingdom to attract more people to come? Because I don't know if them fixing the Yeti.
I think that's how they're thinking for sure. Because that's why it's not
business wise, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, that's why I don't. Business wise is why I don't think it will ever be physics, unfortunately.
Right.
I think the part that sucks about it is that the marketing of the ride, and then there was a special on the Discovery Channel that I watched for the kid as a kid, where they talk about the fluidity and range of the animatronic and show how it's like a never been seen before element in a thrill ride. And that, I think, is what was the signature of Expedition Everest that separated it from other roller coasters. Was that the centerpiece of the roller coaster was this like super impressive Yeti animatronic thing. And although you go through that scene super fast, and maybe it, maybe narratively it doesn't do that much compared to a strobe light effect, I think it's kind of like the details of the queue. Like you might not know it, you might not put it all together, but it does enhance your ride experience. It does matter, even if you don't necessarily like process that that's why it matters. But clearly that's not the case for everyone, because you saw it fully functional and
Did you?
done it with the strobe light. I must have. I don't like it's
Doesn't
too
that
I
tell
was
you
too
something?
young.
Okay.
Yeah, I was too young to like remember really.
Jim Corcus says that it stopped. I just saw this in my notes that it went until it was functional until 2008.
Right. Yeah. I did ride it when it was new, so I must have seen it. To be honest, I rode it one. My mom loved this ride and rode it all the time,
Mm.
but after the first time I rode it, I was too scared of the Yeti to ride it again. It
Oh.
was terrifying to me. So like the Yeti left a lasting impression on me, and then I didn't go back onto it until years and years later when the disco thing.
Yeah.
So like I can't even really answer the question, I don't think, of do
Yeah,
I
that's
think it
fair.
matters,
That's
like
fair.
from a personal perspective. But from a Imagineering perspective, in terms of like the history of animatronics, fluidity of large animatronics as centerpieces for roller coasters, it's a loss in all of those
Oh my God,
categories.
yes.
Like if Guardians of the Galaxy
Sad.
had animatronics, it would be like even more amazing in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like now maybe we're scared to put big
Well, sure.
animatronics and roller coasters.
And yeah, I mean,
So that
at
sucks.
least don't make it so you can't get to fix it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm sure they learned.
I'm sure they learned their lesson from it, but that's an expensive lesson to learn.
Yeah,
But
it was also revolutionary in terms of like the engineering that took place to like computer map where the roller coaster and its supports were going to live, where the infrastructure for the animatronic was going to live
yeah,
around the show building. All of that needed to line up perfectly in
Right.
real life in transition from new computer mapping technology. So like it's no one's fault that the Yeti is broken. It
Right.
just sucks that it had to be that way for.
It definitely sucks, and I
Yeah.
of course wish that it wasn't like that. All I'm saying is, from a business point of view, I can see why they're not fixing
Oh
it.
yeah.
Um,
I don't think they're going to. I
Yeah.
really don't.
yeah,
Just because it's so much money.
yeah, and from what I can understand, and of course I don't know the exact, but it sounds like they would have to shut it down for a wild amount of time.
Wild, like
Yeah.
Animal Kingdom. Maybe when they open the new Indiana Jones, whatever, whatever thing.
Well, yeah, and people thought that about Pandora because before.
I was hoping that about Pandora.
Yeah,
I was
before
like, when
Pandora, this was like their star attractions. They couldn't shut it down for a lengthy amount of time. Then they did shut it down in 2023 for a few months, and people were like losing their mind over it. But I mean, obviously, that's not what happened.
Maybe when Everest turns. When did it open?
In 2006.
Maybe when it turns 20.
Maybe.
No,
That's soon.
definitely not.
Um,
I do have a question.
Okay.
The ride goes through that particular scene very fast.
I know.
But Expedition Everest itself is also very fast. Is it like the fastest thing at Walt Disney World? Is it close? Where does it stand? Do you know?
It's in the top 5, but it's not.
Oh,
it's
okay.
not. So it goes about 50 miles per hour, but it feels so much faster. And I guess that has a lot to do with the wind and you know what I mean?
Yeah, and you're going through like tight spaces and
Yeah.
all of that manipulates your perception of
Yes.
speed.
So it goes 50 miles per hour. Rock and Roller Coaster goes 57.
Hmm.
Tron now goes 60. I don't know if you knew that.
No, I
I
didn't.
didn't either. I don't feel like I'm going as fast on Tron as I do on some of the others.
The only
Guardians goes 60.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, Guardians feels
But
faster.
I swear it depends on what song I'm listening to as to whether it even. I don't feel like it feels fast, but in a good way.
Yeah, floaty,
Floaty,
floaty. Um,
or like I'm slow dancing at a school
oh yeah.
dance when you get one of the slower songs. I'm just joking, but like I make fun of the slow songs all the time.
You have told me that you feel that way about the slow songs in there.
The fastest ride in Walt Disney World is Test Track. Still
That's not
at
true.
64 miles per hour.
It can't be real.
I know. I really hate that trivia. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
it's not right.
because it's like a not roller coaster.
Do you think the new Test Track will make us want to ride it?
Yeah, I mean, we'll for sure want to try it, don't you think?
Oh, we'll definitely try it, but will we want to ride it?
Oh, I don't know.
Who
I don't
can
know.
say?
Do we know the specifics?
It'll be vaguely World of Motion inspired.
Yeah, well,
That's it.
that's what I heard too. But does that compute to anything in my brain? No,
No,
no, it does not.
unless they're going to reintroduce that, like the entrance where the cars are going up, like
Okay,
but they won't. Like the whole
that'd be
building
like,
is different.
yeah, right.
There's
That
no
would be
way. So unless they're doing that, or actually now I am recalling some scenes from World of Motion. I think I'm the prime target audience for this update. All right, I have one more question. It's a little bit morbid.
as we do.
Yeah, obviously Bob and his associate, whose name I don't remember.
Norbu.
Okay. They are getting us into some fictitious
Dangerous
trouble,
territory.
some danger. Has there been any real life danger on Everest? I have a memory as a child of there being an incident on this ride that I was there for, but I don't actually know anything about it, so I wonder if it was real.
Oh my god, I remembered it too, vaguely. Like, you know how you don't sometimes you hear stuff like this and then you don't know if it's real or somebody is just trying to like scare you.
Tell me what it is, so I at least know.
On December 18th, 2007, a 44-year-old man from Navarre, Florida.
Wow, we live in Florida and neither of us have ever heard of that.
Nope. Isn't that weird? Yeah. Lost consciousness while riding the roller coaster. He was given CPR on the ride's loading platform and was later pronounced dead at the hospital, but it had nothing to do with the ride.
Okay.
The medical examiner's office conducted an autopsy and concluded that he died of a dilated cardiomyopathy, and the death was considered natural. I looked that up, but I already forgot what it meant. But it was pretty obvious that it wouldn't have anything unless it's a cover-up, and this isn't a theory, a conspiracy theories podcast, unless you want to get into that.
No, not when we're talking about an actual situation.
Look at that. It dilated cardiomyopathy is a condition in which the heart becomes enlarged and cannot pump blood effectively.
That's so sad that had to happen at Disney World of all places.
I know. Yeah, it is sad.
So I will say, at that point I was too scared to actually be going on the ride, but like I said, my mom did this all the time, and I would always wait in the queue with her, and then at the end of the queue...
That's what Bailey did.
Yeah, I don't know why that's a thing, but that's what we always did when we were scared to go on anything.
Oh, well, it's a thing because your parents didn't want you to... What do you mean? Why that's a thing?
Well,
why you went in the queue?
At that trip, I believe I had two parents there. So my question is like, why was I in the queue with my mom as opposed to doing something else with my dad? You know what I mean?
Well, that's a personal question.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. So like, I don't know why it was the case, but I was with my mom at the time, and
you took the chicken exit. So
it was this day
on all of these big roller coaster type rides. They have what they call a chicken exit. Everybody calls it that, like affectionately, for people that are too scared to go on it.
And
but then
unthemed.
they can go, but they can go through the queue, which I think is a very cool thing because when I was a kid, I didn't want to. I was too scared to ride Tower of Terror, but the queue is so cool.
It's its own little experience.
Yeah. Bailey will do that a lot, but we would want that because we didn't want to worry about abduction or something like
Oh,
that.
totally.
If
Okay.
on Everest specifically, if you go through the queue with your parents or whatever, and then you decide to take the chicken exit, you just walk a little bit to where the unloading area is.
Mhm.
And you're like, I'm not saying a cast member is like babysitting you, but somebody's aware that you're there.
Mhm.
It's not their responsibility to watch your kid, you know what I mean?
No,
So they've got to be
totally.
old enough to know to go stand by a cast member and not to wander off.
Mhm.
So for Bailey, that was like, I mean, we didn't do that until maybe preteen years, maybe
Sure.
preteen years, but I certainly wouldn't do it with like a 5-year-old.
Right.
But
Okay.
then I would child swap. But I think it's such a cool thing because somebody that is not wanting to do it can do all of the cues, and there's so much detail and theming in the cues. Most of the time, more so than the ride.
Yeah.
Like Tower of Terror, you can experience so much. You know what
Yeah.
I
There's
mean?
so many parts of the queue and a pre-show
Yes,
and that one
exactly. And you get to do
specifically.
the pre-show. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool.
Well, I will say, I don't think that the Yeti will ever be fixed, but something that I am
Do you think
obsessed.
Yetis are real?
Do I think Yetis are real? Forget about it. I do love the culture that has popped up surrounding his name, which is now everybody calls him Disco
Oh,
Yeti.
yeah. I cannot believe I didn't mention that because on our Etsy store, we make a Disco Yeti shirt. If
Yeah.
you're watching us, we're wearing it.
We're both wearing different color variations of it.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite designs from the t-shirt shop.
Yeah, because it's not like Disney calls him the Disco Yeti. It's super fans.
We do.
Yeah, not just us though. Like all
Right.
fans, like
Disney
especially Disney people. Let's go with that. That's perfect. Because of the strobe light, it's like a joking name.
Yeah.
So we made a Disco Yeti shirt.
It's got a disco ball.
Yeah, and it says quick fixes and repairs, which is, ironic.
Yeah, I love it. You gave me a gift version of this t-shirt years ago now at this point, and I wear it all the time. So
Yeah.
I love it.
So the Etsy store is Neverland Navigation.
Oh, right. That's the reason we started talking about
No,
this.
it's not. You were talking about how he's called the Disco Yeti.
No, I meant Etsy. That's the
Oh.
reason we started talking about Etsy, so we could tell people the name of it, and then I forgot to.
Yeah, if you want a Disco Yeti shirt, Neverland Navigation.
Yeah, absolutely. I recommend it highly.
Etsy.
And if you would like to go to Animal Kingdom and you're looking to plan
yeah.
a trip, then you should do it with Morgan, because she's a planning extraordinaire. She's offering her talents as a travel advisor, not only for theme park vacations, but primarily for cruise vacations.
Cruises is my my specialty, but as you can tell because you're watching or listening to me right now, I'm also a Disney World expert. I'm a little bit of a Disneyland expert too, so I can absolutely would be happy to do a Disney World or Disneyland vacation too.
Yeah, take advantage of that free travel planning services. Why not?
Just email me at neverlandnavigationco@gmail.com, and then we can work things out.
Perfect. And if you're looking for more content about Disney history, attractions, food, dining, all the things you can do,
all the things
at a Disney park, then you should follow us on social media. On Instagram and TikTok, we are Neverland Navco.
Yeah,
and you can find short form content and trivia and all kinds of stuff on there.
Yeah, the trivia is so fun.
Yeah, lots of fun.
Yeah, for our Disney people.
For our Disney people.
Those of you that want to go on a Disney cruise and win all the trivia like me.
Yeah, the medals are impressive, I have to say.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we would love it if you would like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're watching the visual version of the podcast.
And if you're not watching us on YouTube and you're listening to us on audio, you should check out our YouTube channel because we do lots of Disney restaurant reviews, hotel reviews. We did a not so scary
of the podcast again.
Not so scary Halloween party review, all the stuff.
Yeah, a little bit longer content. It's fun. But you should check out the Neverland Navigation Co. YouTube channel as well. Fun stuff all around. You can find us there, and you can find Yetis in the mountains, so don't mess around. And that's about it, right?
I think that's it.
All right. Until our next expedition. We'll see you on our next adventure. Bye.